From the time we were old enough to recognize shapes and colors, we recognized signs. We knew that red usually meant stop, green usually meant go. You know, you see a red octagon, that's obviously a stop sign. You see a green light, it means go. Before we were, as a people, robbed of our knowledge of self, we were able to interpret signs in nature. We knew if a storm was coming by watching the animals. We knew when to plant our crops by watching the stars. Through antiquity, we lost that knowledge of self and the knowledge of our forebears, but it has been reawakened in us and through us through Bible prophecy. I'm here to not only prove that tonight, but to also discuss one of my passions, which is stargazing. I've mentioned this in past videos, you know, when I was giving people an idea about who I am and what my channel's about. I always said that I would touch on astronomy at some point, talk about the sun, the moon, the stars, the different celestial events, eclipses, equinoxes, whatever major events happen. I did want to cover them at some point. Well, most recently, there was a comet by the name of Atlas, which people that follow sky watching and astronomy, you know, that was all the talk. It was going to be the biggest, brightest comet since Hale-Boppe, the one that we saw back in the 90s. I want to say around 96, 97, somewhere around in there. But it fizzled out on its way around the sun. Fast forward to July 2020, and the brightest comet in over 2 decades was one that was not predicted. They did not see it coming. And right now, the astronomical world is in a frenzy to try to figure out how they missed this. I'm here tonight to declare that there are powers in this universe stronger than man and stronger than anything man ever created. That as long as the one God, the one creator that created the universe is in control, he will always give us wonders and make us wonder why. However, I'm not just going to talk about Comet Neowise, where we need to look in the sky to see it, or its significance. I'm also going to talk about Revelations 12 tonight. For those of you who don't know, I'm just going to give you, again, this is a brief synopsis of tonight's video and some of the things we're going to be discussing. The phenomenon that happened on September the 23rd, 2017, was a celestial alignment of biblical proportions. It is said that it is the sacred alignment that is spoken of in Revelations 12. It fulfilled the first two verses of Revelations 12 verbatim. So if you want to take notes, take notes. If you have your Bible handy, that's fine. If not, pull one up on your phone so that you don't think I'm just telling you anything. I will reference every piece of information that I give you tonight so that you can know where to find it and come to your own conclusions. I'm not here to preach to you to tell you whether or not Jesus exists. I'm not here to tell you how to believe or how even I believe, except for the fact that there are certain signs, just like as we were children, we learned how to follow signs. The mysteries from the past are no longer mysteries because we are learning how to interpret them either through science, mathematics, geometry, and just good old-fashioned wisdom. I'm glad to be sharing this with you tonight. I know this isn't entertaining per se. You know, I could do a gossip video game video, talk about how Tyrese is arguing with whoever, who is it this week? Don Lemon and Terry Crews. You know, there's plenty of videos out there, and if that's what you want to see, then I advise you to click off this video right now because we're going deep tonight. I've got some videos lined up, my visual aids, I like to say, to back up what I'm telling you. And then I want to hear in the chat how you feel. For those of you that are here live, welcome. If you're not shy, drop a line in the chat, hit the like button, hit share for those who you think can be nourished by this food that I'm going to share with you tonight. Now, we're going to start with the talk about this new Comet Neowise. I have a video lined up that will explain a little bit about it, where it came from, and why it's named that, you know, just some of the more trivial knowledge, I guess you could say. And then when I come back, we're going to discuss some of the signs that come out of Revelations and from the Bible, even starting back from Genesis. All right, this first video I'm going to share is about the recent comet. And after this video plays, I have one more lined up. Be right back. All right. The next video will go a little more in depth about the comet and where it came from, and a little bit more background. Stop this screen share for a second. Hey, Isis, we have The real ISIS one in the house. Welcome, sis. Glad to have you here. One of my favorite YouTubers and one of the most knowledgeable women on YouTube. I'm glad to have you here tonight. And if you'd like to join the stream, you are more than welcome. I'm going to go ahead and share that now. With a quick click. There we go. Yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to make it tonight. And anybody else who's live tonight, thank you. For anybody else who's watching this video later, again, you can pause here, grab your pencil and paper, grab your scripture, because we're going there tonight. We're going deeper than I think I've ever went in any video that I've done on YouTube. So for those of you who missed it tonight, I'm sorry, but if it's put into me by my creator to share this with you, then I feel like I was blessed to do it. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now we just don't understand. And the further we turn away from scripture, the more confusing, alarming, annoying things get. Every day you see some devil come out of their shell, these Karens and Kens who feel like their dominion is under fire, being questioned. They have ruled this planet for generations and never been questioned about anything they've done by the indigenous people. They've always had mastery. They use their technology that they used by stealing ancient Egyptian, African, and Oriental technologies like gunpowder. They took our sacred geometry and used it to devise weapons of mass destruction. So there's been so many times in history, but now the devil is losing his dominion. And it was spoken of in prophecy. Those fallen angels will go back to their place in the depths. And it has been foreseen. So whether you are religious or not, rejoice in the fact that Satan will be abolished from this world once and for all. And just like we should see the signs of our awakening, just like they see the signs of their demise, a lot of us are blinded to the future. We're blinded by weed. We're blinded by alcohol. We're blinded by greed and red bottom shoes and late model cars and all these things that if C19 hasn't shown you are not important. They're not worth your life, and nothing material is worth dying for. But again, this is all prophesied. Well, before I get too deep into that, I got a lot I want to talk about tonight. But before I get too deep, we're going to stay on topic and talk about this comet that popped up out of the sky out of nowhere, and talk about some of the other celestial events that have been happening over major cities in the past few days. More than any time in history. It used to be you see these anomalies once every 60 years. Now they're happening once or twice a month, sometimes twice. So here's the next video about this comet and some of the other things that have been happening in the skies since 2020. And of course, StreamYard takes a second, but we'll get there. Okay, this next video is courtesy of Skywatch Media. The title of the video is Blazing Comet Suddenly Appears in the Sky, Surprising Astronomers Worldwide. Should show them who's in charge. But certain people don't want to listen. But again, I'll let them explain this.
Skywatch Media News for July the 9th, 2020. A blazing comet named Neowise has suddenly appeared in the sky above the Earth, catching many astronomers by surprise. Neowise, a near-Earth object, was first spotted by the WISE telescope on March the 27th. But at that time, it was a dim 17th magnitude object, and therefore was not easily detected. Astronomers had feared that this comet would fall victim to the same fate of other promising objects this year, such as Comet Atlas, which was the brightest comet in decades. But as it passed by the sun, it began to break up into separate pieces and gradually faded away. But Neowise survived its encounter with our star in early July, sailing very close, tucked inside the orbit of Mercury, boosting its brightness to magnitude 1. It is now sailing into the far reaches of the solar system, but not until it swings past the Earth later this month. The extraordinary comet has become one of the very few comets that can be seen with the unaided eye this century, and it is going to remain visible throughout the month of July to provide a unique opportunity for stargazers to spot its appearance.
For the sake of time, I'm going to see if I can speed this up a little bit. Now, strictly speaking, for yourself in the chat, and I think we have a new visitor to the chat. Welcome to, I'm sorry, this is StreamYard. Such a pain. Oh, thank you, Isis. Thank you so much for that super chat. I really appreciate that. It's been a long time. We have Regina in the house. Joy Chit Chat, YouTube star. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Let's support each other by supporting each other's channels. Please subscribe to The Real Isis 1. Subscribe to Joy Chit Chat, two awesome YouTubers. Really glad to have you here. Maybe even Monica Mo Justice will bring her stubborn self in here tonight. Regina says, if we can see it with the naked eye, it's the brightest comet ever seen in centuries. This is huge. I was actually nervous to do this video tonight because I was talking to my mother about it because I was raised a sky watcher. Back in about 81, 82, I was only 4 years old. And there was a celestial alignment. My grandmother was an Eastern Star. So she had a fancying knowledge of the skies and different things because of what she learned in the craft. My mom was just curious and inquisitive and wanted to see what was going on. And my grandmother made sure it was something that I witnessed. And it happened that December. And the way it was explained to me was it was a star of Bethlehem. The same way that it appeared to Mary and Joseph and the wise men over 2,000 years ago was the way it appeared to us that night. Now, I've tried to find backup references to that, but ever since then, I've always had a curiosity about the stars, the sun, the moon, and the way they operate. One thing I did, another myth I'm going to bust tonight is are the constellations. The constellations have more biblical reference than anything the Greeks or the Romans applied to it. But we're going to get back to the video about Neowise, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to discuss. I'm going to let them make their money. It's only 5 seconds.
Because Neowise is a comet, it has a coma trail that extends far behind its icy nucleus. And it is this trail that will be easier to spot than the object itself. So keep an eye out for that long streak that is visible in the sky. The easiest way to locate the comet is to look for the more familiar stars and constellations that are situated near the object. It will be gradually moving during the month of July, but should be fairly easy to locate. But if you're struggling to locate the comet, there is an app called Night Sky that will make it easier to identify the constellations that cross its path. If you're looking for the comet in the late evening sky beginning mid-July, then look to the northwest and locate Ursa Major, commonly known as the Big Dipper. From this point, look slightly to the right, about 30 degrees above the horizon, and there you will find the comet. The long nights and early mornings make it difficult to find, so it would be best to look from an area that is void of streetlights, where the sky is dark enough to clearly identify it. Your best bet is to try late evening hours or against the lighter pre-dawn sky, where the comet is visible for the next few days from the northeast, below the constellation Auriga, about 10 degrees above the horizon. Although Neowise is visible with the unaided eye, it may help to use binoculars to locate the comet. And once located, you can then have a look without the aids. During the course of the month, the comet will approach the Earth and make its closest flyby on July the 23rd, when it should be much easier to spot. On July 6th, European astronomers captured an intriguing spectacle above the horizon as Comet Neowise was being photographed. The sunrise comet was surrounded by noctilucent clouds. These noctilucent clouds are increasing across much of Europe this summer, and so the comet served as a splendid backdrop to the iridescent cloud formations this month. Comets throughout the centuries, and even today, have inspired both dread and awe in many cultures and societies around the world. In earlier times, they were referred to as the menace of the universe and as the harbinger of doom. They have been regarded as omens of disaster, as well as messengers of the gods. Long ago, skywatchers cringed at the sight of a passing comet, but today we marvel at their sight and are spellbound by their appearance. When the so-called messenger of troubled times is captured in the presence of the mysterious iridescent clouds in the atmosphere, it is something rare and quite strange that is happening before our eyes. Because the comet Neowise will be shining brilliantly from above the Earth and is but one of a very few that are visible to the unaided eye, don't be surprised if this one goes down in the books as one of the most vivid this century, a sight to behold.
Hi there, I'm Lee Arnold, and I made this video to ask you for some help.
Get out of here.
The existential threat from meteoroids and asteroids is a hot topic these days, with reports of atmospheric explosions happening at a fast clip from around the world. Meteoroids or asteroid fragments enter the Earth's atmosphere every day. Many are small or insignificant, but occasionally a much bigger one sneaks through our atmosphere, creating a much greater risk to our planet. On July 2nd, a space rock crashed into our atmosphere above the city of Tokyo, creating an immense sonic boom.
Now, that's one major city that got a warning just recently, not even a week ago.
The event produced a spectacular light with green and purplish hues flying across the sky for just a few seconds at around 2:30 a.m. local time. The impact of what was likely a small asteroid colliding with our atmosphere was picked up by a few of the infrasound monitoring stations that are set up around the world, which are overseen by the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization. According to the International Meteor Organization, the fireball was visible from across Japan's Kanto region. Calculations on the impact of the entering asteroid have determined that the blast produced the equivalent of 150 tons of TNT. The IMO further estimates that the space rock was 5 feet in diameter with a mass of nearly 2 tons. It's important to note that this asteroid fragment flew over a major metropolitan city in Japan with a population in the millions, which poses a much greater risk for anyone living in close proximity to a blast when there is a greater explosive potential. Remember to keep your eyes to the sky, because this has been a crazy year, and nothing is beyond the scope of possibility. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.
He can say that again. This has been a crazy year, and there is nothing beyond the scope. So that I agree with. All right. So we're going to take it a step deeper. Now, a lot of us don't really believe in astrology as they put it. But one thing that astronomers, scientists, even atheists can agree on is that somewhere between 1 and 3 BC, there was a celestial event that only happened once and has never happened again in the history of the earth. And it ushered in the birth of a child that has changed mankind as we know it. That cannot be denied. What I'm talking about right now is the Star of Bethlehem. And the ironic thing that I learned from an atheist who believes in astrology, not astronomy with an N, but astrology with an L, which is Leo and Pisces and Cancer, and you're a earth sign and a moon sign and a solar sign and all of this other crap, which I don't prescribe to. Which I tell you that I respect their beliefs, but I don't prescribe to it. The Christmas star has been described in a lot of ways, but it happened. I can even show evidence that it happened. I have a news story here that talks a little bit about it, at least the hypothesis. And then I have another video, I believe, that should show the alignment. Let's check this out. And again, shout out to everybody here in the chat. Now, guys, what do you think about the comet? Do you think it's a sign? Because the reason why I interpret it as a sign from heaven is because the Bible told us there would be signs. One I want to share with you is Revelation 6, chapter 12, verses 12 through 14. I'm sorry, chapter 6, 12 through 14. I'm going to tell you why this one is important to me. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell on the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. In reference to the fig tree, I have two in my yard. I have one big one and I have a smaller one. They call it turkey fig that grows really big figs. The big tree grows little ones. The little tree grows big ones. Anyway, funny thing, my figs are not edible until mid-July, early to mid-July. And they usually don't fully ripen and all fall off until about the 1st of August. I had a fig, one fig that grew on my tree in March. My mother lives right down the street from me. She walked down to my house, and she's the one that brought it to my attention. I saw the shock on her face, and it shocked me. I thought she saw a snake or something. But come to find out, my tree was bearing figs. It wasn't even spring yet. It was still like really, really late winter, early spring for a tree that doesn't bear fruit until July. Again, we're taught to see the simplest signs, but by losing our mores and losing our history, losing our original religions, well, I don't like that word, but our original beliefs, we will be able to see signs like that and know that something is not right. And it wasn't long before that COVID broke out, and they were calling it the Kung flu, and it was all one big joke, and it'll never hit here. A month later, I was out of work. But my fig tree cast an untimely fig. I really interpret that as a sign of things to come. Now, we're going to talk about comets tonight. Like, we have to mention Revelations 8, verses 10 through 12. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, And it fell upon the third of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of this star is called Wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them were darkened, and the day shone for a third part of it, and the night likewise. See, these signs are before us right now. We just have to look up and pay attention. Let's not wait for all the seals to be opened before we open our eyes and awaken to the things that are to come. Again, I'm not a preacher. I am not a prophet. I'm only reading from scripture, and I'm glad that the Lord blessed me to share this with you. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the Star of Bethlehem. And then when I come back, we're going to take it even deeper. And we're going to talk about Revelation 12 and the fact that it already happened. I'll be right back.
Finally, tonight, there are countless stars in the sky, but there's only one that's associated with Christmas, right? I'm talking about the Star of Bethlehem. Many of us who are Christian, and by that I mean about 2 billion of us, we grew up with the Star of Bethlehem in songs and in stories that were handed down to us. The star is surrounded in mystery. After all, why would it suddenly appear if not as a way to guide the 3 wise men to the baby Jesus? Well, astronomers are now chiming in. Here is RT's Trinity Chavez.
For more than 2 millennia, the Star of Bethlehem, better known as the Christmas star, has been fascinating astronomers. Experts have even been speculating about the cause of the star for centuries, trying to figure out exactly what it is and if it even really exists. But now one researcher is sharing possible explanations for the mysterious astronomical wonder. The Star of Bethlehem is mentioned in St. Matthew's Gospel and is one of the main symbols associated with the birth of Jesus. But it is also an exhaustible subject of debate as a scientific phenomenon as to what is really going on in the sky that led a group of men to travel for 8 to 10 months toward the town of Bethlehem.
It's possible to use stars for navigation.
For centuries, the star has been the center of debate on whether or not a star actually appeared in the sky to lead the Magi to Bethlehem. But some believe that the symbol was nothing more than a literary device.
In ancient cultures, astronomy and astrology were typically tied. They were unified. The positions of stars and planets were kept track of, and there may have actually been a particular planetary alignment that meant that there would be a birth of a king.
While there's still a lack of documentation, records about astronomical events like this one actually do exist.
A lot of astronomers who want to look at ancient astronomical events typically refer to Chinese recordings. Just to be clear, it's not only Chinese recordings. There are also, for example, Arabian recordings that keep track of these ancient events.
And while some researchers say that if it actually did exist, the Star of Bethlehem was a comet, a supernova, or a triple conjunction.
It's a triple conjunction, where there are 2 objects that meet up, whether it's a star and a planet or a planet or 2 planets aligning. It happens 3 times over the course of a short period of time.
After analyzing the data, Castillo says that he thinks that it could actually be a variable star.
My favorite theory is that of a variable star, where the variable is a star who increases or decreases its light intensity. Its period could be anywhere between the matter of hours to years.
While there are still no clear answers about the Star of Bethlehem, there is one thing that experts are sure of, and that is the continuation of this debate. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
So you haven't heard that we're the ones covering the story?
All right, so that was that bit on the Star of Bethlehem. Again, we've been following the stars as a people from the beginning of time. We used it to navigate. We used it to tell us our seasons. It's ironic that we have someone by the name of Isis in our chat because there's a star named after her. Some people know it as Sirius. And it's the brightest star in the sky. And right when it rose above the 20th parallel in Egypt, they knew that the Nile would flood. And in the flooding of the Nile, they knew when to plant their crops. So again, we've used the stars so many different ways. Regina says, why isn't mainstream media hitting this, interested in not talking about this? There's a lot going on that should be talked about. That's true. And that was actually a Russian news site that I pulled up. Hey, welcome, Entertainment and Star Wars. Glad to have you here. Another one of my favorite YouTubers. He talks about two of my favorite things, entertainment and Star Wars. Good guy. And if you haven't, please subscribe to him as well. All right. So I promise to take you a little bit deeper tonight, and we're going to go there. This video, the first one I'm going to show you, is going to give you a brief description on what I'm referring to when I mention the Revelation 12 prophecy. Let me pull up the Wikipedia so that you guys can share the information with me, see it in real time. Okay. The Revelation 12 sign prophecy is an apocalyptic belief that an astronomical alignment happened on September the 23rd, 2017, to fulfill the first two verses of Revelation 12. This date coincided with the autumnal equinox and the end of the Catholic September Ember Days. This theory, promoted by Christians and news organizations, proposed the literal fulfillment of prophecy made in the book of Revelations 12, 1 and 2 that occurred this date over Jerusalem. This event really happened. Here's the quote from the Bible. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant, cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Some people believe that an astronomical alignment involving Virgo and Leo, the sun, the moon, and the planets Mercury, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter that occurred on September 2017 fulfilled this prophecy word for word. The sign is also known as the woman of the apocalypse. Some of the most Christian interpretations of this passage interpret the woman as Mary or ancient Israel, and the man-child as the incarnate Jesus. Here is the alignment chart that happened on September 23rd, 2017. Here at the bottom, you have the moon, you have Jupiter, and if you look at Virgo, the constellation, she does look like a woman giving birth. She's laying on her back with her arms in the air and her legs open. You also, on that night, and that night alone, and this won't happen again for probably another 6,000-7,000 years, you had Mercury, Mars, and Venus all in alignment with Jupiter and the moon. The prophecy speaks of a crown of 12 stars. And if you look at the 9 stars in Leo and then add in the 3 planets, that equals 12. Now, I'm going to go deeper like I promised, but I think this video sums up what the diagram is explaining. So I'm going to play this video and then we're going to go deeper. Be right back.
I want to briefly discuss with you a very important topic in which the sun, the moon, and the stars will align with perfection to fulfill a 2,000-year-old prophecy. Perfection only found from the creator of heaven and earth. This prophecy was written down in the book of Revelation, the last book in the Holy Bible, directly from Jesus. This book was given to us so that we would know the time of the end, what to expect, and to know what would happen. Let's read Revelation 12 together. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. So what we see written here is the constellation Virgo, which is known as the woman, who is clothed with the sun. That means the sun is currently in the constellation Virgo. The moon is under her feet, and above her head is a crown of 12 stars. And Jupiter enters her belly, stays there for 9 months, and exits, showing a birth. So in this very descriptive passage, we see all phases, the sun, the moon, and the stars, all coming together to form a picture of a birth. And again, lastly, the 9 stars from Leo, always above her head, plus the 3 wandering stars align perfectly for the crown. God himself spoke through the prophet Daniel and said these things would be sealed up until the time of the end.
This is our awakening, Israel. This is our awakening. This is what they call being woke. This is what they call cancel culture. This is all those words that they try to apply because they don't have the vocabulary to understand what's really happening. That it's not a matter of being woke. It's that God's children are awakening. And the old stunts that the devil pulled to control us and manipulate us aren't working anymore. But, you know, everything remains a mystery until that mystery is solved. And right now, the scrolls are open, the trumpets are blowing, and our eyes are opening. The louder the trumpets blow, the more awakened we become. And we learn something new every day. And I hope that somebody walks away from this video learning something new.
As in, nobody would really understand until the end came. Thanks to technology, we have a program called Stellarium. It allows us to go forward and backward in time and see how the stars align. Because as they have seen, every star, every planet known as a wandering star follows a mathematical equation. This alignment has never happened. In the beginning, in the book of Genesis, God himself says the sun, the moon, and the stars will be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years.
Please, if you don't take anything else from this video tonight, if you don't want to know what happens in the end of the story, start from the beginning. Genesis 1, chapter 14 and 15. Let the sun and the moon be there for signs. It's that clear. Every eclipse, lunar or solar, is a sign. Every different phase, every season is a sign. I love my Creator. I love what he gave us. And again, I can't wait to go deeper. I just can't wait.
This prophecy is no exception. What's also really interesting is when Jesus was telling his apostles of when he will return, he himself said that there would be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, as in much trouble going on.
There shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. Again, we had it in Genesis. We see it again in Luke. Y'all better take notes. And upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, like a virus that you can't figure out how to cure. The sea and the waves roaring. Look at what happened in Indonesia 2012 when hundreds of thousands of people died due to a tsunami. Look at Japan. Right now, as we speak, it's flooding and hundreds of people have been killed. Have been lost. Thousands more displaced because of what's happening in Japan right now. The sea and the waves roaring. I didn't make this up.
As we see now. Hopefully by now you see that this topic is worthy of your time for further investigation. This is something that you can see with your very own eyes and confirms that the Bible is true. If you haven't done so, please seek Jesus Christ today, as time may be running out. God bless, and please share this with everyone you know.
Hi, I'm Steve Nichols, president of...
Yeah, one reason why this will never hit mainstream media, Regina, is because the devil has held this knowledge away from us for generations. Even when we couldn't read the scrolls, they read the scrolls before us, interpreted them in the way that they wanted to, in a way to keep themselves in power and to keep the little man in check. But now we know better. Now everyone's eyes are coming open. The next video that I'm going to play goes deeper into Revelation 12 and 13, but it's also going to teach you something you did not know about our constellations. I know most of us believe that the constellations were something that the Greeks made up because they saw shapes in the sky and decided to name them after their gods. Well, that's Pisces. Well, that's Virgo. Well, that's that one looks like a lion. Well, that one looks like a bear. So they named them. What if I told you that our entire, what's the best way I can put it? The prophecy of the end times is written in the stars, not just through Virgo, not just through the dragon or the sun and the moon, but almost every constellation that you can see with the naked eye plays a part in our salvation and our future. You may not believe it now, but I think you will after you see this video. Again, I'm going to touch up the speed a little bit due to time. And I know it's late, but God put it on my heart tonight to share this with you, and I hope you stick around long enough to get this word. Again, if you know anybody that can use this information, please share. Share on your favorite social media platform. Share on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, anywhere. I think this is worth, if you care enough about somebody, sharing this information with them. Okay, now I'm going to blow your mind about what you thought were the constellations and what they actually mean. If you don't want to take my word for it, I hope after this video you do your own homework, do your own research. And anybody that's interested, I may do a part 2 on this video as the year progresses and there are more signs. Hopefully we, as God's children, can see those signs and be able to interpret them to our family, to our children, and make the appropriate preparations for the things that are to come. This next video blew my mind. I hope it blows yours as much as it does mine, as much as it did mine. Now, for reference, the Bible verses that they're talking about, I do want to share those with you. So for those of you who are taking notes, go ahead and take notes. For those of you who are watching this and it's not live, go ahead and pause the video for a minute. Get the old Googles out, because this is very important to this video. Let's see if I can. I don't have my virtual Bible, but I'm gonna work around that. Again, give me a shout in the chat if you're here. Glad to have you here. You don't have to hide. Don't need to be shy. Okay. Psalm 147. What does that say? How good it is to sing praises to our God. How pleasant and fitting to praise him. Drop down to 4. He determines the number of stars and calls them each by name. Great is our Lord and mighty in power. His understanding has no limit. The Lord sustains the humble, but casts the wicked to the ground. All right. What's another verse that was on that video? We have Job 9. What does Job 9 say that's relevant to this? He speaks to the sun and it does not shine. He seals off the light of the stars. He alone stretches out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea. He is the maker of the Bear and Orion, the Pleiades, and the constellations of the south. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles which cannot be counted. And again, I can reference these verses, but I think this video does it a lot more justice. Again, the surprising, the mind-blowing part hasn't shown up yet. Okay, now there's the constellation Virgo in the depiction. And we saw what she looked like earlier. That's also very important because, of course, those of you who are born in September, like me, we're called Virgos because this is the specific time in late August through late September when the sun passes directly through the constellation. And she had the moon beneath her feet. The story began on Rosh Hashanah, which most often falls between mid to late September. A lot of times Rosh Hashanah also falls on my birthday. Now remember the crown of 12 stars on her head? That's the constellation Leo. And what did Leo really represent? It depicts Israel's crown, the royal tribe of Judah. And the Comet Berenices, which means hair crown. But in John's time, it was the 3 stars that represented Leo's tail. So in John's time, the crown of 12 stars on Virgo's head would have been the 12 stars of Leo. The constellation Draco the dragon. It's said that the dragon is waiting to devour the child. Now, most of us have seen this constellation, and we call him Orion. The Greeks called him Hercules. He actually depicts the archangel Michael. Most people don't know that. And there was a war in heaven in Revelations where Michael fought the dragon, and there's also a reference in Genesis as well. Now in Europe, they have Michael Mass, just like they have Christ Mass. They have a Mass for the Archangel Michael that defeated the dragon. And it's right there in the sky. We can look up and see this battle take place. And most people don't even know it. They hid this knowledge from us. Now, remember in Revelations, it mentions an enormous red dragon with 10 horns. This is the ancient serpent called Satan. had 7 heads with 7 crowns. Again, that comes to light later too in Revelation. And his tail swept a what? A third of the stars from the sky. Those of you who know about the battle in heaven, the war in heaven, a third of Satan's legion was cast down to earth. A third. And there's a lot of thirds mentioned in Revelations as well. The serpent is positioned at Virgo's feet, ready to devour her child the moment it was born. And the woman gave birth to a son, a male child. This is the constellation Libra, which means balance, justice, and the judge. Libra is ruled by Venus, which means love, desire. And in Malachi 3:1, there's a verse that says, and suddenly the Lord you love and desire will come to you. Again, none of this has to do with astrology as we know it. Libra comes right after Virgo, as Virgo is depicted giving birth to righteous Libra. Israel gave birth to a son who would judge the world with balance, justice, and love. Again, you don't have to be religious. Wait till September, look up in the sky, and you see this story play itself out for every year of your being. Let's check in with the chat real quick, and then I will continue the video. Hey, SD, welcome to the chat. Always glad to have you here. One of my OGs. Brian Marshall, glad you were able to stop by. Joy, glad you're still sticking around. Glad you're not too freaked out. Thank you, Regina. Like I say, we got a good vibe tonight. Good vibes by all. Glad to have everybody here. All right, let's continue. And the dragon and Scorpio can't wait to get the child. Her child will rule the nations with an iron scepter. This is the constellation Boots. Boots contains the brightest star in the northern hemisphere. Boots is depicted as a shepherd holding a rod. And rising out of Israel. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. This is the constellation Cepheus. He is the one who is crowned. And notice how it appears above all the other constellations. The dragon pursued the woman, but the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. This is the constellation Corvus, which is depicted as a bird and sits right under Virgo's back. And the serpent spewed water. Sorry, they got to make their money too. Then the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman with the torrent. This is the constellation Hydra, who is depicted as a water serpent. He sits right under Virgo and depicts the satanic torrent. Now, we're not even halfway through this diagram, and you can already look up in the night sky and see most of these constellations depending on where you are in America. You should be able to see almost all of these. Again, this has nothing to do with astrology. Well, tomorrow or your love life is going to be this, or you're going to get the job, or there's going to be a big change coming soon. None of this has anything to do with any of that. So if this is your first time hearing this tonight, I really hope I open your eyes to the difference between the astrology the devil gave us and the signs and symbols and prophecy that was given to us by our Almighty Creator. The earth helped the woman. The dragon was enraged at the woman, went off to make war with her offspring, those who obey God's commandments and those who hold to the testimony of Jesus. But Jesus had given them power to overcome evil. This is the constellation Ophiuchus, the big O in the sky. He depicts the Christian overcomer. Notice how he's pictured handling the snakes and stepping on the scorpion. Behold, I've given you authority to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. Luke 10:19. They will pick up serpents and they will not hurt them. Mark 16:18. And again, we see that right here to the left of our diagram. And we can look up in the night sky and see it too. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea, Revelations 13. And the beast resembled a leopard. This is the constellation Lynx. Because of its spots, it resembles a leopard. The snow leopard is also called a lynx. But he had feet like those of a bear. And you know what the bear is? That's Ursa Major. And most of us can look to the western sky right now and look up and see the Big Dipper. And he had a mouth like that of a lion. That is Leo Minor. Again, you can look up tonight and see Leo Minor as long as there are no clouds in the sky. Just look to the right of the Big Dipper. In Revelation 17, we're told that out of the beast with 7 heads will come an 8th king who will rule the world. He is a resurrection of one of the 7. My question to the chat is, which one of these is Donald Trump? Now we get into the constellation Sagittarius, which isn't what you think. In John's time, he was depicted as Archer Krotos, a satyr, part man, part goat, not as a centaur as it's pictured today. It's more like this diagram up here of a goat man. We're told that the beast comes out of the abyss. Revelation chapter 7, verse 7. Chapter 11, verse 7. He is called Abaddon, the angel of the abyss. Revelation 9:11. I don't even like saying the name Abaddon. It just feels evil. The abyss means the watery deep where the fallen angels are imprisoned. In the Milky Way, right under the serpent's tail, which casts down 1/3 of the stars. Angels is a large pool of stars. This is the abyss, the place of the fallen angels. They're fully immersed in this pool of stars, and the abyss is where we find Sagittarius. Most know this evil angelic hybrid, this part man, part beast, as the Antichrist. If you don't believe it, every depiction that you see of the Baphomet, what does the Baphomet look like? Looks like a horned goat man. I really don't want to pull him up, but just for the sake of reference, they have a Baphomet statue up. I can't remember what state it is. Yeah, this guy right here. There's your Sagittarius right there. Sorry for those of you that were born in December. I apologize. But yeah, this big 8-foot statue still exists. And out of all the Confederate statues that they've torn down, out of all the founding fathers that they wanted to do away with, this guy still sits. And look what's next to him, a child looking up to him. This, friends, family, I love y'all enough to share this with you. And I hope that you walk away with some takeaways tonight. I hope that one day you can sit with your kids and have them look up at the stars and tell them the story of our redemption, on how no matter how hard the devil tried to take away our salvation, our Redeemer, he was swept up to heaven. His mother was protected by the earth, and mankind did win. After 1,000 years, we were tested again, and we won again. I'm hoping that we share this video, y'all. If you take anything away, if you learned anything, please like, share, subscribe. We have to have these conversations with our people. If you love somebody in your life, share this video with them. Copy, paste it, put it on Facebook, whatever you need to do to open their eyes to this information that they may not have known before. The inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast. All those whose names have not been written in the book of life. You know what their names are? Their names are Karen. Their names are Ken. A lot of these people wear badges, and they think that their thin blue line is more important than God's plan. They think their bank accounts, they think their church, they think their privilege makes them privileged in God's eyes. Little do they know the last shall be first. The first shall be last. Abraham said, after 400 years, I'm returning and to judge those who put my people in bondage. How long have we been in the United States? How many years have we been in bondage? Time is up, y'all. Time is up. The signs are already showing us. The times are already showing us. How much longer are we going to be blind and not listen and be afraid? I know this video is scaring the heck out of some of y'all. I get it. It's scary shit. I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, this is ancient knowledge that was robbed of us 4,000 years ago that we're just now reacquiring in this day. If any of you pick up a Bible, pick up a book, study your history after this video, I will feel like I was blessed. Anyway, let's continue. And then I saw another beast come out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. On the elliptic path arising right after Sagittarius is the constellation Capricorn. Capricorn is depicted as part goat, part sea dragon. Capricorn means goat horns. And we already know about those goat horns. I'm not pulling up that thing again. Part goat like Sagittarius, the second beast exercised all authority of the first beast on his behalf. And he forced everyone to receive a vaccine. He forced everybody to receive a microchip. He forced everybody to get a mark so that no one could buy or sell, or kids couldn't go to school, or couldn't get a job. Sound familiar? We're going through this right now, people. There are a few other constellations in the summer sky not mentioned in John's vision, but which curiously fit within the Revelation story. This is Canis Venatici, which is depicted as Boot's two faithful dogs. They charged the lion, the bear, and the leopard, and may be the two witnesses who are murdered by the beast in Revelation 11. This is Camelopardalis. Now, this particular constellation was named after a camel, namely the one which brought Rebekah from Haran to Canaan to marry Isaac in Genesis 24. Now, this is important. And we finally have the constellation Cassiopeia. She's the beautiful wife of King Cepheus. And she's easy to find in the sky, too, if you ever look up during a certain time of year. Cassiopeia depicts the bride of Christ, prepared as a bride and beautifully clothed for her husband. Isaac's wife, Rebekah, was the mother of Jacob, Israel. As a camel carried Rebekah to Isaac, a camel is now pictured carrying our mother to New Jerusalem with her husband. Again, this isn't even mentioned in Revelations. The person that put this video together actually showed those other minor constellations and how they play into the story. She'll be seated with her loving husband and glorious Lord to live happily and forever after. And notice again, they are above all the other constellations. And now the dwelling with God is with men, and he will live with them. And they will be his people, and he will be their God forever. This is our promise and our hope, and it is written in the stars. Hold fast, beloved. Let him who has ears say, come. Hit that share button. Share this. Share this knowledge. Psalm 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the works of his hands. Again, how many references do we have just in this video tonight of the sun, the moon, the stars, and their relevance to Revelations and to the Bible itself? Regina says we're going to need a part 2 continuation on this, please. Once we follow up for that part 2, I want everybody to look to the skies. If you don't have a stargazing app, that's fine. But if you do, all these constellations will come to life right there on your phone, tablet, right there on your screen. You'll be able to look up and see those ancient constellations that, again, don't represent what the devil told us they did. They tell the story of our Creator. They tell the story of our Savior. From the time that the mother gave birth to the time that he was whisked up to heaven and came back to absolve us of our sins and transgressions. Again, you don't have to be a Christian to believe this. It's already up there. You can look up and see it for yourself. So those of you who believe in ancient Egyptian, Nuwapian beliefs, that's fine. For those of you who prescribe to Hebrew Israelites and their doctrine, that's fine. For my Muslims in the house, assalamu alaikum. For my Indian brothers, namaste. There is but one God, and he has given us so many signs. And now I'm hoping that my brothers and sisters tonight will be able to help interpret those signs, to be able to pass this story along to their children and their children's children, the way our elders used to sit around the fire and tell them about creation and tell them about the end times, so that it wouldn't be something scary. It's something that you rejoice in, knowing that all of this upside down will be turned right. He who is last shall be first. It's not that wrong is right and right is wrong. Right has always been right, no matter how many lies we hear in commercials, no matter how many politicians lie to us. We know right from wrong, but so many times we prescribe to what the devil gives us and just take what they give us and believe it. The rest of it is hidden from us. They give a little bit to the Freemasons. They give a little bit to the Catholic Church. They give a little bit to the world leaders to know how to control the masses. But the rest of us are left out. Our grandparents came on this earth, and most of us over 40 or 50 years old, our grandparents have left this earth. And will never know the things that we learn in this video tonight. Keep that in mind. They probably read horoscopes and, played lotto numbers and all this stuff. And, oh, yeah, that's my lucky number. Oh, it's 77-20-20. Oh, I'm going to play that on Cash 4. Without ever knowing the significance that numbers have in our future and in signs and in the things that were, the things that are, and the things that are to be. Well, the chat is open, so anyone that would like to join in is welcome. Again, I'll share before I leave. This was, again, I don't get real nervous before I make a video. But tonight, again, I was slightly nervous because it was something I wanted to get right. I don't want to come to you half-stepping, and I always like to show the sources of my information. Copyright be damned. If they want to hit me on the backside and take my monetization, I can't do anything about that. If they ban this video and take it down, again, this is their platform. There's nothing I can do about that. But one thing we can do, brothers and sisters, is share, like, comment, do whatever it takes to get this word out, because for every soul we save, that'll be another soul that we have to fight Satan once the fight does come. And the fight is coming. The police are training in Israel. Why are the police training in Israel of all places? What is it in Israel that's so valuable that an American police officer would fly 2,000 miles across the ocean to learn what it is they're teaching? I found out the secret. You know what it is? Anybody in the chat who knows what the secret is, please do. Right, and I was hoping that you would have an appreciation for the information, Isis, because, again, you are named after the brightest star in the sky. And ushered in, the fertile seasons for all of Egypt, the most advanced people in the world. And again, you don't have to share all the same beliefs. Some people believe that all the animals were put on a boat 2 by 2 and sailed for 40 days and 40 nights and didn't eat each other. Other people believe that the Milky Way was sent down from heaven when the Lord Brahma had the Queen Ganges and got angry with her and sent her down to earth. But Ganges was so powerful that it would have destroyed the earth. So the Lord Shiva opened up a lock of his hair against Shiva, Indian god with dreadlocks. One of the only deities outside of Africa that you see with dreadlocks. He opened up one lock of his hair, and the river Ganges flowed down his head, down the locks of his hair, and controlled the river. And those people make a pilgrimage to the river Ganges, almost like a pilgrimage or a baptism as part of their faith. So there's so many faiths out there that, again, I respect them all, even though if I don't prescribe to the doctrine, I may not believe in Shiva or Brahma. I may not believe in Buddha, but I believe that there were prophets that came and went and left us with the word to have the wisdom to be able to live our lives like good people, regardless of bondage, regardless of sacrifice, regardless of how we were raised, whether it was in a fatherless home or whether it was under poor or unfortunate circumstances, that each and every child of God has the power to rise above it all. Through our faith, through our knowledge, through our wisdom, we become better people. And the one thing that we do in life that brings the most value is not uplifting yourself, but it's actually uplifting others. It's to reach out to a brother and to give them a hand and to raise them up. And then next thing you know, you have an army. Why do we need an army? Turn on the news. Well, family, I love you all. Special shout out to Isis. You know, I love you. You know, you have a special place in my heart for what you do. All my content creators in the house, I appreciate you. To all my new faces, R Boxing 1108. R Boxing, I want you to check out a brother by the name of United Boxing Logics. If you're a boxing fan, he's a good close friend of mine. I haven't seen him in a while, but he is foremost professor, I guess you could say, on all things boxing. Check that guy out, and we'll check you out in turn. Brian Marshall, thank you for coming. Regina SD, one of my OGs from, I think, my original 100 subscribers. Joy Chit Chat. Everybody that was able to make it tonight, thank you so much for your time. And I think I'm going to do a part 2 on this if you guys are interested. If you have any information to share, or if you have any comments that you don't want to share here, hit me up at therealslyjones@gmail.com. I hope to see you guys soon. Peace. And I'll catch you on the next video.